Welcome to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast. And you're very welcome back to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast with your host Mark Kennedy, joined again this week by Danny O'Brien and Simon Stokes as we review all things NFL and the playoffs. Guys, how are things?
Good now.
How are things back, good?
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, super weekend last weekend with the divisional games. I suppose we'll run the rule over that. We're getting into the kind of championship weekend, so AFC, NFC, we're down to 4 teams. Probably have a preview, get your thoughts in terms of the key matchups. I suppose, guys, do we want to kind of go straight into it, the AFC playoffs? I suppose, Danny, what kind of stood out for you last weekend?
I suppose, look, it was interesting even with the playoffs as a whole in terms of, like, you look at all the games, like, the only half that wasn't competitive was the second half of the Ravens-Texans. Like, the rest of it was very much, it went down to the last quarter. It nearly went down to the last play in a few circumstances. But, yeah, that Ravens team is, like, credit to the Texans for keeping it close for the first half. But, my God, when the Ravens they upped it a gear on both the offense and the defense, and they were scarily impressive. And like the Chiefs Bills, they did it again. They put together another classic game. The Bills will again have enormous regrets, especially the 3 failed drives in that fourth quarter. The whatever the hell they were trying to do on that 4th and long with the fake punt. I mean, yeah, like they're gonna be sick over that. But you're looking at the Chiefs, and they seem to be timing things very well. And like you said, I think we mentioned it before, this is what their 6th conference championship game in a row. I mean, that's dynasty level they're at now. And like that, the Mahomes Jackson face off, that'll be worth the admission alone. So like the AFC championship game could be an absolute classic. Could be a classic.
Yeah. So let me get you in there in terms of AFC. What stood out for you?
Yeah, I suppose the AFC, I thought it was, there were 2, reasonable matches. I think the Texans were absolutely shut down, and CJ Stroud, we spoke about him last week. Once or twice during the season, I mentioned the Jets game last week. Where he was when he didn't have the long ball, I thought he was under pressure. But Baltimore looked, they looked rusty in the first half. But the second half of that game, they looked unreal. From the Chiefs Bills point of view, I was hoping that Bills could win last week, but I just think probably the injuries possibly caught up with them as small. But the Chiefs got over some of their red zone problems, and it's lining up for a decent AFC championship game this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose, Danny, looking at Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, the MVP is fairly well locked in at this stage, given that performance.
Oh yeah, no, like I mean, he brings something that just no court, like not even Josh Allen with his size, like he was on another level. Like and that was the challenge the Texans kind of faced. Like you shut down, like they did a very good job in that first half going after Jackson, but like his overall game throughout the 4 quarters, he will win MVP this year. And even just from the defensive standpoint, even though as a Steelers fan, you can't but respect. I always enjoy teams who go after the quarterback like the Ravens did. They didn't give Stroud a second. There were always the number of blitzes that they hit against him as well last weekend. They just didn't give him a second, and he looked like a quarterback who was haunted. The thing with this weekend is if there's one quarterback who can kind of live under that pressure, and I'm thinking back to the Bucks Chiefs Super Bowl, it is Mahomes. He can live under that kind of pressure. He can pull off these incredible plays. So, but like I think it's for Jackson, like it's his best chance. It's probably going to be one of the best chances he's ever going to get of making it to the big game as well. But like, yeah, last weekend he was record breaking in terms of how he played, and he will be MVP this year. I can't see anybody else getting it.
Yeah, the numbers are very impressive, Simon. I mean, 2 touchdowns, 152 yards passing, 100 yards running with 11 carries. I mean, magnificent performance, particularly in that opening half when, in fairness to the Houston Texans, they really did try to put pressure on him.
Yeah, but I think they tried to put pressure on, but at the same time, like Houston, they tried their best. What did they have short into a kick return touchdown and a field goal? Like I think the tail of the whole game, if you look at the running game, Baltimore had 229 yards on the ground, and Houston couldn't get anything going. And I actually commented last week that if there was one weakness in the Baltimore D, it's their run defense. But I said that like I didn't think Houston had the players to maybe exploit that, and they actually only hit 38 yards on the ground. Like you're not going to win any game at 38 yards on the ground. But no, Lamar is was outstanding. I think there's still questions about his passing game. Like I know he threw 2 touchdowns. I just think there's still questions about it. Like look, they're rightly they're 3.5 point favourites going into this weekend's game, but I don't know. Let's say, would you be desperately confident? Like I'd obviously have a picture in my head of Lamar throwing a huff on the sideline and things going against him. The one thing I would say about Baltimore, like Baltimore have picked up many players and to give Lamar every chance. But they're spreading around the ball when they do pass it, and they're efficient more than spectacular in their passing game. Do you know, like Odell Beckham only had 1 catch the last day, but it was his only target, and he got 12 yards from it. Flowers picked up a couple of balls, didn't do anything too massively explosive, but it was all you're looking at first down, and it's allowing your run game open up. And as I said, they had 229 yards. But Lamar is going to be MVP. At the same time, he's going to be MVP, but probably, yeah. If you give the Chiefs the choice of swapping, I don't think they'd swap for Mahomes for Lamar. Do you know, that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, yeah, there's a lot of teams I don't think they'd still swap for him, because it's still, I just have in my head that he's going to get hit at some stage and he's going to get hurt. But yeah, the Ravens D was fantastic. The Texans didn't know really what they were doing. I think the commentary on the TV, they said at one stage that Stroud was looking like a rookie, more so of a rookie than he had looked at several times during the regular season. But yeah, look, the Ravens are impressive. We'll see what way they'll shape up against the Chiefs this week.
Yeah, Danny even liked the Texans there until halftime, but I suppose Baltimore's defensive adjustments as well. Second half really shut down any threat that the Houston's may have had. But where do you see the Houston Texans now? I mean, they're part of the playoffs, but is there kind of optimism there for next season?
Oh, yeah, I think definitely, and I think from the point of view as well that they have a kind similar to the Bengals when Burrow had his breakout season. They have 2 or 3 years there where they won't have to pay Stroud the big money, so they have space there at least from a cap perspective to kind of put players, and like players I think will go to Houston based off of what Stroud was able to do this year. Like kind of they'll be able to pitch it to potential players that they want to bring. I think they'll probably look at what happened to Jacksonville and make sure that doesn't happen to them. I think like the future's pretty bright for the Texans from that perspective. And yeah, like I said, like they have the space in terms of cap room. I can see them adding, like they can still kind of build out there in terms of not having to pay Stroud. There's that 2 or 3 year window, I think, where as a team as a whole, they can really build it out. But I mean, like they were already in bonus territory, and I think for them it's a case of this has gone way quicker than we were anticipating it to. So I think the challenge for them is kind of right. We don't want to rest on our laurels and just be like, okay, we'll do well next year, because again, like you're looking at like will the Jaguars come back with a couple of changes? What way are the Titans going to be? The Colts also will have a certain young quarterback that they'll have hopefully fit for next year. So no, like it is. I mean, when you like most Texan fans, when you consider where they were this time last year to where they are now, it's and also like when you're going into the draft, they have Cleveland's pick. So like it's similar to kind of with Seattle and when the Broncos traded there, they're basically being built by other teams. So like they do have a lot of there's a lot more positive going for them than negative. Although the one challenge they may have is if certain coaches do end up we're at that stage where coaches are getting picked and where they might get hired somewhere else.
Absolutely.
I think you're on the ball, Danny. Like it's unheard of that a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach, even make it to the playoffs in their first year. I think Houston had a great year. Just commenting on their division, like the Titans look to be a bit of a basket case going into next year. I suppose there's bits of uncertainty about the Colts and the Jags. Like there's no reason why Houston can't be thereabouts out of that division every year for the next couple of years anyway, once everyone stays sound and fit. So yeah, look, it's mainly positives for the Texans. They've got their playoff win this year, which was a deadly return in their year. And yeah, sure. Look, hopefully they'll come good in the next few years.
Yeah, I suppose we'll leave Baltimore and Houston Texans. Baltimore 34-10 winners. I suppose we'll move to Buffalo. Danny, I know we joked last week about Buffalo.
Wide right. Well,
yeah.
They even said it when they went. It's like, oh my God, the 2 words that Bills fans never want to hear again, and they heard it again.
Yeah. In fairness, Kansas City Chiefs going in, to Buffalo, the Buffalo Mafia, getting the 27-24 job done here, getting into another AFC Championship game. I suppose what stood out for you, I mean, Mahomes definitely, but he had a great supporting cast from his offense.
Yeah, the offense is kind of, as the playoffs have gone along, the offense is turning up for them, and that's not a good sign for the rest of the league, because also even the preview you sent on their defense, it's the best defense that the Chiefs have ever, and like they've never been known for defense, but they do have it. And like with Mahomes, like some of the throws he made, and like the offense, not only like Kelsey obviously broke the record in terms of just the quarterback tight end in terms of just touchdowns in the playoffs, but it was across the board. And even like the Chiefs, their run game is generally not well known. It sure did turn up as well on Sunday night as well. Like just as a whole, it definitely, yeah, it's their best performance of the entire season. And like if you're the rest of the league as well, they seem to be timing it. And I mean, we're looking at another dynasty here, and again, the game this weekend will, like, if they win that, then yeah, we're definitely talking of them in that kind of category as well. But like Mahomes is woof, like what pressure last week, and he was just he did what Mahomes is probably the only quarterback in what he can do. And like just as a whole, like you're looking at the Chiefs going, yeah, they do go in as like Ravens are favorites, but like I said, Mahomes is probably the ideal quarterback you want to be having against that kind of pressure, because he doesn't feel pressure. He really did play up to his level, and the team seems to be kind of in around it. And yeah, if the Chiefs do make it through next weekend's championship game, they will have proven all the doubters wrong as well. Mahomes going on the road, can he make it to another Super Bowl? Like, I really wouldn't be surprised if they did make it all the way as well. And even just, I'm going to say, from a uniform matchup, I hope it's the Lions Chiefs, because they'd be a gorgeous combination. So I'm always for the uniforms.
Fact. Simon, just getting you in there in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs performance, what stood out for you?
Do you know what stood out for me in that game was the way the Bills ran the ball. Like, it's the one thing that, like, Kansas played very well in offense, but the Bills seemed to be able to pick up 8 yards every time they ran the ball. It was something. It was mental. And it'd be my one fear. Like, what's his? I don't know here somewhere. What's it called? The Bills had 182 rush yards, but Josh Allen had 72 of those. That's a mental amount of ground to be giving up on the ground, or rush yards to be giving up. I'd wonder if that's like the Ravens are going to use the Bills template going into next week, and they're going to try and kill the clock, and they're going to run the ball because the Ravens have a decent run game. It's the one thing. It's just like Cook. You know, he's a second-year running back, and he definitely has improved this year. And overall, the Bills' run game has improved. But like, this was something ridiculous what went on last Sunday night. They seem to be able to pick up 7-8 yards each time, and it'd be my one worry for the Chiefs. I thought Travis Kelce was like, he obviously caught 2 touchdowns, but over the last 2 weekends, he's definitely come back into himself a little bit. I mentioned last week that the Chiefs had a really, really low rank in the league when it came to red zone efficiency. They got was it 2 or 3 two touchdowns in the red zone last week. So like their passing game has improved. You know, it was mad. It was kind of a game that the Bills left after them, wasn't it? You know, like that. Danny already mentioned the botched 4th down fake punt. You know, Hollywood to DeMar Hamlin around the corner, and you know, you nearly see the script written. But that last, I think Josh Allen, there was a lot of the throws he missed on that last drive that led into the Bat Smith's field goal. So he had was it on 3rd down? He went for the end zone, and he had Stephen Diggs on the flat. It would have killed the low of the clock. They would have easily gotten a 1st down out of it. He threw another one, just another one that barely missed in the end zone as well to Shaquille. I just like, to me, it felt like a game that the Bills left after them. It was a real kind of a shootout of a game. So like, look, the Chiefs, obviously, you can never write up Mahomes, and himself and Andy Reid the last couple of weeks, they've conjured up a couple of great games. I'd wonder, like, I just think I have a feeling the Ravens are going to run it this week, and when the Chiefs will have to close things down, I just have a feeling the Ravens are going to take their nice, efficient, over-the-top passes. Say likely gets another touchdown another week in a row. Like, the man seems to be catching touchdowns since Mark Andrews went down injured. There's actually talk, I think, that Mark Andrews might be back this week, which would be a deadly addition. But yeah, I'd just wondered. It was the one thing that stuck out to me was that they gave up. Their run defense was absolutely horrific, and I'm just wondering is that an area that could be exploited this weekend by the Ravens?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Danny come in there. I mean, credit to the Kansas City Chiefs fourth quarter performance. I mean, Kelsey scores early in the quarter. I mean, Bills have the ball at least 4 times, and they were able to kind of stop the Bills from scoring in the quarter. So, I mean, I know the run game has been mentioned here by Simon, but I suppose from a Kansas City Chiefs perspective, defensively, they're in good form going into this Baltimore Ravens game.
Yeah, no, definitely, and like for the Bills as well, they're going to be up there with Green Bay in terms of sick how the game went. But I think also the challenge they also face is that Allen is due $48 million in his contract this year. That's $30 million more, so that's $30 million that they won't have to spend on other positions. And is the Bills' window going to start? Was this their chance? Like, is that window starting to shut now? From the point of view of, say, certain key players also aging, and like with Diggs, does he want to stay around? Von Miller as well, what the injury that he got. Like the Bills have, it's actually nuts the amount of teams who have huge questions going into the offseason, and like I think the Bills are one of them. But even like with regards to the Ravens, like it's very difficult to look past them. Like the only reason I'm kind of including the Chiefs is because it's Mahomes, but the Ravens are at a historic level in terms of the Ravens are like on the level of the Dolphins of 72, the Bears of 85, and even the Patriots of 07 in terms of just their point scoring and also the kind of how efficient they've been. I mean, they've absolutely slaughtered. They're plus 500. I think they're the best record against plus 500 teams that anybody has ever had. Like it's a dominant team, and kind of I think the only thing that can beat the Ravens is themselves. Or if, like you mentioned, Simon, if Mahomes does go, or if Jackson does go down with an injury, what do they do then? But like we're kind of banking on Mahomes pulling another miracle out of it in terms of the Chiefs on the road, because this Ravens team, like we said, Ravens Niners Super Bowl may not be as one-sided as the last time, but you see what the Ravens are after doing to the Texans, what they did to the Dolphins, what they did to the Lions, what they did to the Niners. So they've done. The only team they haven't been able to really stomp in the ground for some reason is the Steelers, who have a 2-0 record against them.
Danny, I think you're on the ball about the Bills there. I think I read somewhere that they have 21 players that are out of contract after this season.
Yeah.
Now, I'd imagine they're going to cut Von Miller, so that'll save them a little bit of money there. And you'd have to imagine that the Allen contract, which is desperate, they owe him a desperate amount of money this year. But I'd imagine they'll rearrange that, so restructure it somehow. Like their window, if their window isn't closed after this defeat, it's definitely going to be closed in the very near distant future. So like maybe the Bills are in a position that they make one more year of it and try and make a couple of splash moves in the off season and try and throw the whole lot at it for one last. I wonder if Sean McDermott's position, like I know better the devil you know than the devil you don't, but like I think his position is becoming questionable. You know, a couple of seasons now they've lost in the playoffs. They've lost heartbreakers, all right. But yeah, I think I'd wonder how long more that that he lasts there, and I'd wonder will they get another year or so, throw the kitchen sink at it, and after that then they'll have to start paying Allen at some stage.
Yeah, I think there'll be questions with his role. Not at the moment, I think, but if next season is similar, I think then questions will raise, because like they're not going to sack a coach who's like, when you compare where the Bills were before he was there versus where they are now, it'd be like if the Lions decided, right, we need to move on, because that would just be absolutely insane when they go from being the most stable they've been in, well, decades. So like, yeah, I think his McDermott's position at the moment, I think it's solid, but if they do suffer, or really, like if they have a poor playoff run next year, I think questions will start to be raised then, and they will look at like throwing the kitchen sink. Do we need to bring somebody in who can actually get us over the line? Although it's the Bills, so I don't think anybody can.
Yeah, no, I think unfortunate for Buffalo, they may have another year of it, given the way the AFC East is going at the moment, but it just feels to me that they've had their kind of stint at the top here, and it could be a kind of a steady decline. I suppose, guys, we can go to the NFC. We'll start at San Francisco. I mean, Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers pulled it out of the bag, 24-21. Simon, was this one that got away from the Green Bay Packers?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was really. And it was a great game. I thought the Packers were very good on the ground, and like we mentioned it last week, but that wide receiver group that they have as rookies and second year receivers, it could be phenomenal if they all stay healthy. Like you'll have them for another couple of years to play around before anyone has to get paid. Look, the missed kick was obviously a brutal missed kick, but I think the key moment in the whole game, there towards the end of the third quarter, the Packers had a really good chance of interception. I don't know. I actually think three of them could have caught it. And it was going to be bringing the ball back in. It was going to be on roughly about the 30-yard line, coming back into San Francisco. That would have putting them up another score. And then straight away, the next series of play, the Packers are coming out, and Love throws his first interception of the game. And like, what a momentum shift. The Packers could have been in a really, really good position, driving maybe 30, 25 yards out from San Francisco line. All of a sudden, it's the opposite way around within a minute or two. I thought that was the key thing. But I thought Purdy wasn't great, but he still threw for 250 yards. So, let's say he was solid out. And obviously, McCaffrey ran for his 2 touchdowns. He seems to get a touchdown every week. He's obviously very, very solid. The Packers were good without being spectacular. I actually thought, the 49ers were good without being spectacular. We actually mentioned it last week about the week off that the Ravens and the 49ers had at the end of the regular season, and then they had the bye the week after that. And I thought both teams showed a bit of rust because of it, and I wonder, will it result in both teams opening up and being a bit more expensive and performing a little bit better this weekend?
Yeah, Tanny, kind of going over to the other side of the fence to 49ers. I mean, Purdy found a way in the fourth quarter. Kittle and McCaffrey with 179 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I suppose there's third quarter concerns here, particularly with Green Bay, how they were able to move the football.
Yeah, no, the game was a lot closer, but again, it was a lot closer than many would have anticipated. Although there's also the kind of the debate around, like what we had said, whenever the Bills seem to get far, the Chiefs seem to be the team who beats them. But for Green Bay, just the 49ers, be it in Lambeau, be it just kind of even in Rodgers' era, there was Kaepernick. The last time they had a genuine the Niners always seem to be the team that the Packers just can't get past. But like you said, yeah, the Packers they're going to be as sick nearly as the Bills fans from the perspective. They had chances to win, and in all intents and purposes, they definitely were the team who played better. And there will be concerns there for the 49ers too, from the perspective of just their all-around game was not that good. And again, having McCaffrey, there's another trade where you're looking at it going, how the Panthers managed to do so many trades that have basically crippled themselves. It's nuts from that point of view, but. Yeah, I think this week maybe it's not the worst result either for the Niners in terms of they won't get too big for their own. Yeah, they won't get too kind of overconfident. There'll be a lot of areas for them to work on, but again, still they did get through, and kind of for them that they're now at the game where they tend to either fall on or their quarterback gets injured as well. But yeah, the Niners do have room to improve on. But yeah, for the Packers. Yeah, they're going to have serious regrets because also with Love, he'll be getting his big boy contract soon. So Simon, you mentioned about the cap space they have, but there must be the NFC North the rest of them must be looking at it going, right, you had Favre, then you had Rodgers, now you have. I mean, some of the throws he's had over the last 2 games have been incredible, but they must be going, you nearly have 3 decades worth of quarterback. What the hell are you doing? So, they're in a good position, I think, in terms of the long haul. Love's going to get his contract, yes, based off of this. This was the year he truly arrived. For the Niners, they made it to the championship game, so it's kind of a case of working on it there. You don't want it to be too easy, but yeah, they would not have wanted it to be as close as what it ended up being. Yeah,
indeed. And look, for Green Bay Packers as well, the penalty count, guys. I mean, 6 for 83 yards. I mean, on a playoff game of fine margins here, some of those penalties are absolute morale killers. So look, the 49ers, I think you're spot on, Danny. I think the focus is there definitely for the trip, for the home visit of Detroit Lions. I mean, back to Detroit and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's an intriguing one here, Simon, to be honest. 31-23.
It took a while to get going. It was a game that I kind of had built up as being a gunslinging game between the two quarterbacks. And it's funny, I said last week that I thought that Bolton could throw for 350, and I was looking it up today. Baker Mayfield had to throw for 349.
Yeah.
I was nearly at a Mystic Meg level of that prediction, but what's it called? No, I thought the Lions were very good. Look, Goff was, I suppose, as efficient. I mentioned last week, I think he's a really smart quarterback, and they didn't really have the big long play down the field, but they got a lot of kind of 16, 17, 18 yards, and obviously they have their wide receiver crew. They have Laporta. Like they have a very, very good team. Look, obviously the main game changers, that pick that Baker Mayfield threw in the first half. Like realistically, like the Buccaneers didn't really show up at all in the first half. They got their touchdown with 15 seconds left. If they hadn't got that touchdown, they were going in with a field goal at halftime. But I thought the Lions were good. God only knows what's going to happen to the Bucs now. As I said last week, I think Baker Mayfield is on something like $4.5 million this year. And I was reading somewhere during the week that they're saying that there's mutual interest for him to stay with Tampa Bay, but that he could be looking at getting about 40 or 45 million a year, which is a serious.
What?
Yeah.
That's a big bonus.
It's a big bonus. And the funny thing is, fair enough, give him that money. But at the same time, if you're going to pay him, even if you got 30 million, if you're going to pay him that money, Mike Evans isn't going. I think Mike Evans is going to free agent.
Yeah, he's out of contract.
So you're looking at a scenario where Grant give him the money, you're losing. They're probably going to lose the WR1, and all of a sudden, who's he going to throw the ball to? Like they have good players running. Like Mike Evans got them out of trouble an awful lot last Sunday evening, and so I'd wonder where the Bills or where the Bucs are going to go from here. But delighted for the Lions. Sure, look, they have their shot now in San Francisco on Sunday, and sure, I think every neutral will be going for them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, Danny. Like going back to the Detroit Lions, what can you not say about Dan Campbell and the job he's done here? I mean, more playoff wins for the Detroit Lions since 1958 to 2022. It's just incredible in terms of the turnaround, particularly since he's taken over. He's had a few critics, particularly at the start of his tenure, but by God, this season things have galvanized, and I mean, he's one game away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, no, I suppose like if you're going for Coach of the Year, kind of if you were to do it like say with history taken into account, you would give it to Campbell because it's the Lions, and like he's only, when you consider he's only been in charge the 3 years. The first year, obviously, people were kind of laughing at them. Then last year, it was like, oh, these guys are making waves, and then you look at them this year. It's and again, it's the like one stage they were. I mean, this was the team who were absolutely hurt. Yeah, they went an entire season without winning. That they were at the level of just meme. They were just that bad. But it's an incredible job that he's after doing. And like all you have to do is like look at that. Like if the way I put it to you with the weekend, if this game was in Detroit, I'd be putting them in for the Super Bowl already, because just the crowd adds. So the Detroit crowd, they like what they used to do for the Pistons when they were at their peak. They're after bringing that interest over to the Lions as well. Just the atmosphere they brought to it every time the Bucs were going on offense. You could see that they were having issues with even just being able to even do the calls because the players just couldn't hear it. Like they really did create a terrific atmosphere around it. And like, every neutral. That's why I hope the Lions do like a Lions Chiefs Super Bowl would be brilliant in terms of narrative for both sides. But yeah, I think it's like they have nothing to lose. Like they're in that territory. Like even you mentioned, Mark, say the preview article, they're not going to be going for too many long throws. Like Simon, you made a great point with Goff. Like you could say the game last weekend, it came down to which quarterback made the fewest mistakes, and Goff was efficient. He was solid. He didn't make any errors, whether as Mayfield had the two crucial picks that in the end, and fair, you have to give credit as well to the Bucs. That game was a contest up till nearly the very end. Like the fourth quarter looked like it was going to get away from them, but they managed to keep it as a contest. And I think for the Bucs, that was Evans' his 10th year with 1,000 yards receiving yards. Like, I mean, pay the man. You can't let him go. Like if they let him go, as you mentioned, like who are they going to throw to? But like the Lions are the feel good story. Like you'd be impressed with the Bucs as well. They came out of potentially one of the worst divisions there's ever been, but they got their win, and the convincing win against the Eagles. Like they were in bonus territory, and kind of for the Bucs, kind of the post Tom Brady era is looking a lot brighter than a lot of people were expecting it to, because most people would be like, you got the ring, enjoy the next decade of irrelevance.
Oh, completely. I think it's been a decent year for Tampa Bay. I thought defensively, Simon, they actually showed up pretty well in the first half, but credit to Detroit. seem to make adjustments, particularly on that blitz. And
it is, and do you know the thing with Detroit? I think Detroit had they had 3 touchdown drives in the second half. They definitely came up. They found, they just found how they could exploit the Tampa D. As Daniel was saying, geez, to be great if they could get to the Super Bowl and see how they'd get on in it. Dan Campbell has done an unbelievable job there over the last couple of years. I'd be pretty happy with Detroit's chances this week. Saying that, look, it's San Francisco, so you just don't know how that will go.
Absolutely. I suppose, guys, we can go to championship weekend. It's this weekend fast approaching. The 2 games in Baltimore and San Francisco. Ravens against Kansas City Chiefs. I suppose, guys, you've been kind of hinting here. Who do you think is going to be victorious in the AFC? Danny, we'll start with you first.
Ravens. I think the only thing stopping them is Mahomes if he has a game, or which he can do. But yeah, I just think overall between the offense, the defense, the pressure they're going to bring, the run game, the weaknesses that they just as an all-around team. Like I said, they're a historic side, so I think the Ravens will be. And the fact is, it's the first time that there's been a championship game there, and since they were the Colts. It's even when you think of how consistent the Ravens have been historically since they were even founded, it's kind of nuts from that. But yeah, it's still very difficult to look past the Ravens in terms of who's going to be representing the AFC.
Yeah, Simon?
Yeah, I actually think the Ravens could win by 2 scores. I was looking through, the defense ranks and that during the week, and there's very little between them on the pass defense. And you know what? They're both not great against the run. The Ravens rank 14th and the Chiefs rank 17th. I'm going to put it down to the more mobile quarterback. I think there is question marks about Lamar's throwing, but I think the throw in this game will be lost and won on the ground. And to be honest, I'm just going to push for a Lamar-led 100+ yard rushing game, and that the Ravens will easily cover. I think the 3.5 point spread, and I actually think they could win by 2 scores.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw the spanner in the works. I think the Chiefs have been kind of humming along here right at the right time. The one guy I think we haven't talked about is Pacheco. He came up absolutely huge last weekend, particularly from a run and a passing style of play. And I mean, look, ESPN, don't they all love a story in terms of legacy, and Mahomes in terms of road trip and, getting the job done. But Lamar Jackson, if they can force Lamar Jackson to throw a football to win this AFC Championship game, I think I'm with you here, Simon. There might be some vulnerabilities here. And this Kansas City Chiefs defense has been outstanding this year. And I'm just going to go for the Chiefs. It's just, 50-50 call, but I just think there's something about the Chiefs in the last few weeks. They've turned the corner here. Don't seem to be dropping as many balls now. Commentator curse here. They might do it in Baltimore when we least expect it. But I think for me, maybe Kansas City Chiefs, but I think it's probably a very tight game if Kansas City are going to win here. And San Francisco 49ers, Detroit Lions. I mean, by all accounts on social media here, guys, it looks as if most of Detroit will be heading en masse San Francisco. I've seen the avatars in terms of the Detroit Lions on the logos on the Golden State Bridge. Or Golden Gate Bridge. But I mean, guys, do you give Detroit a good chance here against San Francisco? Maybe Simon will kick off with you first.
Yeah. I'd love to think that they do have a chance. I think they're both really good run defenses. And it's funny, that's the strength on both of the teams. You have McCaffrey on one side, you have the kind of the balanced attack between Montgomery and Gibbs on the Detroit side. But if you nullify that, it goes into the passing game. And I suppose Detroit are going to be in serious bother. Their secondary I think is vulnerable. Versus, I think the pass D for San Francisco is considerably better. So I'd love to see Detroit winning the game. And I do give them a chance if it turns into a shootout. But I wonder if it's just going to be, if we're just ranking it, run our pass defense versus pass defense. I think it's pointing towards the 49ers win, and creating a Ravens 49ers Super Bowl. The one thing I will say is the 49ers. I haven't followed it now today, but I know Deebo Samuel is out. He didn't train yesterday. I don't know that he may practice either today. If he's missing, obviously that's one piece in the whole Shanahan, scheme of things. But at the same time, unless they get at Purdy, all Purdy wants to do is sit in the pocket and wait for these crossing routes to open up down the field, like you got with Kettle's touchdowns last day. If you leave, if you don't get at him, and if your pass D isn't that great, I think the 49ers are going to take you apart. You see the spread is about 7 points. Unfortunately, if you give me €100 this minute, even though I'd love to see the Lions win it, I'd nearly go to 49ers minus.
Yeah, Danny.
Yes, I'd love. Yeah, no. I mean, just the Lions, if they were to make it, it could, like, every neutral is going to be supporting them. Also, with them going to go up against like the Niners, the history they have behind them. I just checked there, Samuel. He's being restricted to limited practice today, so they may try and get him just potentially on the field then on Sunday. I think, yeah, it's kind of the Niners. I think though are under enormous pressure because I get the feeling like last year, they, like the curse they had a quarterback that like nobody could have foreseen it. If they were to lose, I think, on Sunday, that will put enormous pressure on them as an organization because you look at the team they have now, they're all in now. The deals, the trades they made during this season as well, they were like, this is our window of opportunity and we need to take it now because like they're, say, between age and between contracts that will have to be renewed as well. Like we've seen with the Bills, that window doesn't last for very long, and like the Niners window has been open for a couple of years now. So yeah, it's now or never for the Niners, I think, if they are to make it. I mean, granted, the Niners-Ravens, it doesn't have as good a narrative as, say, a Chiefs-Lions game would have so much narrative from the underdogs versus the Chiefs and also the whole Taylor Bowl thing. Also, I'd nearly call it the Kelsey Bowl because it's just the brothers involved with that. But yeah, I mean, I'd love for it to be a Lions-Chiefs Super Bowl, but I have a feeling it's going to be the Niners against the Ravens, and hopefully, I mean, granted, if it's as good as the last one these two played against each other, it'll be a decent game. But yeah, for neutrals, it won't be as fun. But yeah, it's very difficult, and even in general, when it comes to the championship games, it's very difficult to see the road team getting a victory there. So yeah, I think it's going to be Ravens-Niners.
Yeah, I mean, as you've said before, guys, in the previous episodes, San Francisco have such a balanced offense. You know, McCaffrey running the ball here. Purdy gets the time and space in the pocket here. He can, hit his wide receiver core. But I suppose Gibbs for Detroit Lions might be a key asset here, particularly on the run game. He did explode in that fourth quarter. And look, they have a seasoned playoff veteran, I was going to say, with Goff. I mean, if Goff can kind of throw error free, I know it's going to be tough, particularly on the road. If they can keep it tight, I mean, really, Detroit Lions are in completely no pressure on them. I mean, I think most people are kind of tipping 49ers. So I think they've seen the template with Green Bay, how they attacked San Francisco. So look, it's San Fran for me, but I'd be, hoping that Detroit Lions could win to keep their fairy tale season alive. I suppose, guys, we might leave it there. I mean, it's going to be two intriguing fixtures on Sunday. I mean, plenty of subplots from it. I suppose we'll kind of review it next week in terms of who are going to be reaching the Super Bowl, and maybe get some reaction for you in terms of more kind of head coaching news. Anyway, I know the Panthers are poised to announce a new head coach.
God help him.
God help him, I was going to say. But yeah, we'll maybe reflect on that next week, I suppose, guys.
Great.
Thanks very much for coming on, and have a good weekend, and we'll chat next week.
Thanks, Mark. See you.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you liked what you heard in this podcast, why not subscribe to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast on either Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, or Twitter platforms. You can also follow me at Hawkeye Sidekick on Facebook and Twitter for the latest sporting opinions, articles, and reports.